welcome to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode we're going to be talking about a movie we just saw that came out on Netflix called Enola Holmes.
Yes.
Holmes!
I don't know what that was, but
okay. That's what Watson's always shouting. Holmes! Holmes!
Yes.
But, unfortunately, Dr. Watson doesn't feature in this.
Yeah, it was like, there was no Watson in this.
No, it was just Sherlock Holmes and his little... Enola Holmes, it's based on... It's an adaptation of the Enola Holmes mysteries by Nancy Springer. So it's like young adult.
Yeah, I was going to say, which I never heard of.
Yeah, because they've made her up. She is not part of the Conan Doyle canon. Yeah. You know, really.
Arthur Conan Doyle, of course, was
the creator
author.
of Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Dr. Watson.
And this woman, she's American, isn't she?
She's an American author, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she just made up this kind of like... They came out in, I think, like 2007. I think they're an ongoing series.
Yeah.
I think there's been like 4 or 5 so far. I'm not too sure.
I mean, before we get into the movie, just what do we think about this in general?
What do we think
about? What do we think about it? What do we feel?
About...
What are our thoughts and feelings on this subject?
On her creating...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind. I mean, it's there. It's in public domain. They can do what they like with it.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Conan Doyle estate still owns some rights to the Sherlock Holmes books.
Yeah. And
some of the character thing, because I think they did a lawsuit against the author and Netflix and everyone when this came out.
Really?
Because they claimed that the film and novels used elements from stories in the casebook of Sherlock Holmes that remained under copyright, such as Holmes expressing emotions and caring for Watson. Wait,
but they didn't mention Watson.
No, yeah, but, you know, that's under copyright, him expressing emotion and stuff, that character element.
Okay.
And, you know, in this...
Why just that?
He cares for Enola in this.
Right,
you know, yeah. So it's like... Yeah, no, you can't do that. Sherlock Holmes is very, like, mechanical. He's devoid of feeling. He's clinical. He gets the job done. That's why Watson's always like, Holmes, you go too far. Holmes, you don't feel like, what's the matter with you, Holmes?
That's a weird element to still be under copyright.
I think they're just looking for money, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame them, really. Like, you know, I mean, put yourself in the position where it's your grandfather, let's say, who created...
I'm not sure who, if there's any lineage there, if it's actually a family member, or if it's just lawyers. Yeah. Just faceless lawyers who are like, oh, can we sue over this? Can we get some money off this? Because it's going to make quite a bit of money on Netflix.
I mean, in that case, it's pretty disgusting, really. But that being said, if Conan Doyle was my grandfather, or my great-grandfather, or whatever, and he created this beloved character that is still popular all these years later, you know?
Yes.
I think I'd be kind of annoyed, like, someone just thinking, oh, you know what? I'm going to create a character that has to do with the character that he created, and I'm also going to mention this other character and just kind of pretend like it's been this situation from the very beginning. Like, oh, Sherlock's always had this sister, and, you know... you know, creating a situation that could confuse someone who's not as a hardcore Sherlock Holmes fan as you.
Well, it's... I mean, I wouldn't really call myself a hardcore Sherlock Holmes fan. I mean, I enjoy the books. I haven't read all of them, but I enjoy the stories. I've watched all the Jeremy Brett series. And
you've shown them to me.
I've shown them to you, yes, because you weren't really into Sherlock Holmes too much before.
Well, it wasn't that I was. It wasn't that I was not into him, but I just had. Well, yeah, obviously I'd heard of Sherlock Holmes,
the great detective.
I just had never sought out anything to watch, or you know what I mean, it wasn't that I knew who he was and I was like, oh god, I'm not gonna read that, or no, I'm not gonna watch that.
Not gonna watch that.
Blech, you know.
No.
It's just you know, I just didn't really think about it, you know.
I mean, I was always kind of into it. You know, I watched the Jeremy Brett. They used to come on ITV 3 and stuff like that. You know, reruns of them.
I think that if I had been a kid and I had been more exposed to Sherlock Holmes and had read the stories or had seen the things, I would have been very into them, because I used to want to be a detective when I was little.
Yes. Well, and you like the murder mystery stuff.
Yeah.
But you like the Poirot kind of murder mystery, like the denouement and Agatha Christie style of detective.
The Clue style.
The Clue, which is the Agatha Christie style. It's like all these characters are locked up in a mansion and a detective comes, you know, which is usually Poirot, you know, in those kids. It's like, there's been a murder, but which of these people did it, you know? And it's, you know, well, with Sherlock Holmes, it was just kind of like, you know, he was kind of like a superhero. Yeah. In his own kind of thing, you know, he had his methods of deduction. Yeah. And Watson wrote about him in, you know, and that's what Conan Doyle was writing it like. Oh, his adventures appeared in the Strand, which was the newspaper. Yeah. And it was like, it's written by Dr. Watson. Right. An account of Sherlock Holmes. That must have been
so fun. I wonder if there were any people at the time who thought he was a real person.
There still are people who think he's a real person.
I know there are now, but I wonder if at the time, do you know if anybody
I think it was that type of thing.
Get Detective Holmes on the case.
Whoa, you need Sherlock Holmes, don't you? You know, it's like, there's been the Jack the Ripper, you need Sherlock Holmes to solve that. And it's like, Sherlock Holmes isn't a real person. Yes, he is. I read about him in the Strand all day, all night, you know? Every day. That Study in Scarlet, you know, the Red-Headed League. Oh, he's a good one. Yeah. And he lives in Baker Street. Yeah. Yeah, but no, there are people I think there were people who genuinely were like, wait a minute, I thought he was a real person, and, you know, it's like, no. And I think maybe Conan Doyle had to come forth and say, no, I made him up completely. And there's probably people who said to him, no, you didn't, he's a real person. Yeah. Let me meet him. You know? He's got to be a real detective. Yeah. Because 221B Baker Street doesn't exist. Yeah. 221 does. And I think for the last, I don't know how long, maybe 30, 40 years or so, it's been a bank. It's been it was the Abbey National Bank. And now Santander took it over. And whoever works there says, we get tons and tons of mail addressed to Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. And it's like, it's fan letters. And it's like sending a fan letter to James Bond. He doesn't exist, you know. He's not a real person.
But there's no address associated with James Bond.
No, there isn't.
You know what I mean?
No, there's not.
Unless somebody wanted to send fan mail to MI6 or MI5. I always get that wrong.
MI6. Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's probably classified, but I can imagine whoever works at the MI6 buildings who sorts the mail probably says, we get letters addressed to 007 all the time. Like he's a real 007. Thing. You know, the last one was from Donald Trump, you know. I need 007.
Oh, Lord.
It's like, well, we've got something to tell you. He's not real. Just like Harrison Ford wasn't a real president in that movie that you think he was.
But yeah, getting back to the versions of Sherlock Holmes that we've seen the Jeremy Brett ones, we've seen the Robert Downey Jr. films.
Robert Downey Jr. films are pretty good.
Those were very comic bookish, superhero-ish. Yeah. But like you said,
those were kind of like what Kenneth Branagh is doing now with
Poirot.
Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express.
I guess they're a bit more extreme.
I think Kenneth Branagh's just like, I want to do this. This is a job for me, you know. I'll direct it. I'll star in it. I'll write the theme tune. I'll sing the theme tune. You know, it's like.
And then of course more recently the
Benedict Cumberbatch, which is what reignited my interest, because I was into them as a kid, but then I kind of got out of them, and then in 2010 Sherlock came back. You know, the BBC created this series with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
And we had just finished the Jeremy Brett ones.
I thought we started watching them after that.
No. We had literally just finished all of the Jeremy Brett ones, and so I was super against the modern Sherlock Holmes. I was like, I am not going to watch this. This is going to be so absolute crap. Oh, Sherlock Holmes is in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's Sherlock Holmes.
Police.
It's because all the classic ones, including to an extent the Basil Rathbone films, which is where the whole image of Sherlock Holmes became like associated with the deerstalker and the pipe.
Yeah.
And the windbreaker thing that he used to wear, with
like the cape.
The cape and everything, and I mean, those films, they started off like...
Because he didn't describe him as that in the books. Or I say the books.
No,
it was just stories.
It was just stories, yeah. I mean, Study in Scarlet and, the Red-Headed League and all that, Yeah, I mean, that's where it all came from, the Deerstalker and stuff that was just created for the films.
Yeah.
And
everybody's
like Basil. Like
when?
They came out in like the 30s, and then they stopped, and then they came back in the 40s, and then they were set in the 40s, though. And it had it was kind of like Sherlock Holmes fighting the Nazis and all that kind of stuff in the second series.
What?
I mean, so it was kind of like a modern day, because they figured, we need Sherlock Holmes back, to fight the Nazis,
Yeah, I guess,
it was like propaganda type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody was just probably like, oh, I don't know, because the Jeremy Brett series was set in the time period that they were written in, the Victorian England, Victorian London,
Yeah.
And that was it. And
they were pretty much faithful
adaptations. Yeah. Jeremy Brett was so Sherlock Holmes that it was, it started to interfere with his personal life,
Yeah.
So when they announced Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman as this 21st century Holmes, everybody was kind of going, oh no, I don't know what's going on here. There was...
I was, anyway, I don't know about anybody else.
There was rumblings from the Sherlock Holmes Society. Yeah, I think they were kind of against it too.
Oh, yeah.
But it was literally just the setting and the time that had changed.
Yeah.
They were both Holmes and Watson.
Yeah.
Very,
very much
and it worked. It worked very well, and it's due in no small part to Benedict Cumberbatch's acting.
Yeah, it was fabulous. If you guys, for some odd reason, have not seen the new, it's been a while since it's been out, actually.
Yeah.
But if you guys have not seen the more recent Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch, go watch it. You're really missing out.
I think there's been like 4 series of it.
It's fabulous.
I think they're done with it now. I don't think they're coming back to it.
Well, I will say, fair criticism, I think. Some episodes were better than others. But I mean, that's going to be true with any show.
They were adaptations of the books, and they but they kind of like melded 2 books together or 2 stories together to get one. And of course, the setting changed, so they had to and they did it really well.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, they did it really, really well.
But in all of those stories, there was no Enola Holmes.
Well, there was Euros Holmes in the later Sherlock and in the later modern ones. So they created
the last season only.
In the last season, and it was just like there was this kind of there was no reference to her or mention of her before that, So there was no, because Conan Doyle hadn't explored anything beyond Mycroft of Sherlock's parenting,
siblings,
family, So Mycroft was the only one, and he worked for the government. And Mycroft was supposed to be as brilliant as Sherlock.
Because these were just even stories of cases,
they
right?
were just case files.
So he wasn't like Watson, in quotation marks, was not writing a backstory for Sherlock Holmes. He was just talking about.
And I don't think Conan Doyle wanted to write a backstory for Holmes. He was just like, "This is what he does. That's it. No, why do you care about him so much? The cases are what I'm writing about." But people are like, "Oh, we need to know everything there is to know about this guy."
Yeah.
Someone needs to write a biography of him, which I think they've done. They've done several of them.
Yeah.
And of course, over the years, there's been funny Sherlock Holmes films made. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes in his younger brother. I think something to do with Mel Brooks, maybe that was, or something. I'm maybe got that wrong. But there was funny films made and parody films and all that kind of thing. But Enola Holmes, it's for teen adult thing. And the movie was pretty good. I've got to say it was pretty good.
Oh, it was fun.
I think Millie Bobby Brown plays the title character. You probably know her if you watch Stranger Things. She was 11.
Yeah.
And she does a really good job as Enola. And,
yeah, great.
It's their mother, Eudora, and her older brothers, Mycroft and Sherlock.
Yeah. So they do feature in the
They do
in the
feature
film
it.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, Sherlock mainly, I think.
Yeah.
Because she wants to be a detective and she can solve cases and she can go her own way.
Yeah.
And, so Sherlock, and, they're setting it up for, like, more films to come,
Yeah.
which may or may not happen,
Yeah, I imagine, depending on the audience.
Yeah.
And I actually haven't heard too many people talking about it, so...
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's been released amid, this COVID outbreak and everything.
Well, I think that's... I mean...
I think they
weirdly,
were planning...
I think it's better for a show or a movie or something, because people are at home,
Yeah, I think they were planning, though, to do a cinematic release of it.
Oh,
but
really?
I'm not sure. I think maybe Netflix were just like, we're just going to put it on Netflix.
I did see a trailer on television for it the other night.
Yeah.
And it looked like a movie trailer,
yeah.
not like a Netflix movie trailer, But Netflix is really, really come up.
Yeah, it's come up,
People just kind of go to Netflix for their entertainment now and nowhere else, So I don't know. I mean, I think they have a lot of good programming on there.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, we're almost out of our subscription.
Yeah.
We'll have to renew.
I wonder if we haven't heard more about it just because it is sort of geared toward a younger audience, maybe?
It's geared towards a younger audience and maybe, young girls,
Yeah.
I think it was pretty good. It did well. I think it did well telling her little story and stuff, and I don't mind it. I'm not one of these snobs who is like, only the Sherlock Holmes, 1800s, turn of the century, that's all I want, you know? It's like the James Bond fans who just want the, strict literary adaptations of...
well, it was set still during the turn of the century, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, was it? Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just a new character, which I don't mind. Now, if they had, and this is like a controversial topic because, I'm a woman and I'm supposed to...
agree with women.
Yeah.
If you don't, you will be shot.
If they had made this movie like Sherlock is suddenly a woman. You know what I mean?
Sherlock Holmes is suddenly a woman. Yeah, like Sherlock Holmes is the woman,
Yeah.
Because it's kind of an effeminate name, Sherlock.
Yeah. To me, I mean, it could be either, really. But it's just, I'm one of these people that is like, no, Sherlock is not a woman,
Well,
I can get on board with the people who want James Bond to be a woman because...
apparently, Gillian Anderson was campaigning for that for a while.
Well, if you look at it like...
the name's Bond. Jane Bond,
Well, if you look at it like James Bond is a code name anyway, then really absolutely anybody could be James Bond.
But the codename theory gets you out of the fandom pretty well. People don't agree with that codename theory.
Yeah.
Get that codename out of here.
But so I could get on board with that. But some of these things that they like remake with all women or just a woman or, it's got to be whoever, somebody completely different. It's just like, let's just create something new. This is a sibling, so, no big deal. And they mentioned Sherlock in it still.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a really, inspired way to get young girls into the...
It's kind of like the Nancy Drew mysteries and stuff like that, I think that's what she was kind of going for,
Yeah.
And,
then from there, maybe they'll get into Sherlock. Like, oh, maybe I'll check out Sherlock Holmes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he seemed like an interesting character in this movie, her brother, maybe I'll go look at the Jeremy Brett, films or...
Yeah, maybe, yeah, that's true. I mean, I think a lot of people will anyway, it's like, oh, maybe I'll go look at the Jeremy Brett ones. And, I think people will probably want them to go to the Benedict Cumberbatch version,
Mm.
I mean, I don't see any new adaptations coming along of Sherlock Holmes I mean, I think Robert Downey Jr. wanted to make another one, didn't he?
I'm not sure, but I don't see it happening because the Benedict Cumberbatch series exploded so much.
It did explode. I mean,
it kind of killed his film.
It did kill his film, didn't it?
His film series, because I think there were 2 of them.
There was 2,
and I think he was going to at least do one
Guy
more.
Ritchie,
but
I think
it was
just,
yeah.
Because
he's Iron Man, isn't he?
Jude Law played Watson in those, didn't he?
Yeah, he was good, I thought.
Yeah, he was pretty good. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
I mean, but...
Robert Downey Jr., I mean, he's everybody right now.
Yeah, he's everybody right now, yeah.
Yes, he's in everything. Yeah, he can survive without making another Sherlock movie. But I don't know. Maybe because the show's not on, they'll make another.
I mean, I don't foresee them coming back with it, but they may do. I mean, because the one complaint about Sherlock is that they made like 3 episodes and they were like mini movies, a series. They were like an hour and 15 minutes long or whatever they were. And then, they ended on, I think they ended series 1 on a cliffhanger, and they didn't come back for like a year and a half with series 2. And it's like you said, like, oh my God, what is the matter with them? Why, it's just like, because their profiles have made, and it takes a lot to make this movie. And Mark Gatiss and Stephen, it's just getting everybody together to do this.
Benedict Cumberbatch was being cast in absolutely everything.
After that, he was taking every job he could.
Yeah, he was in Star Trek, and he was in the Marvel films, and he was in all kinds of period pieces in between.
Yeah, and I mean, Martin Freeman, too, is making, he was in The Hobbit and stuff like that. So every series was like, oh yeah, we do want to still keep making them and do it. And then there was a lot of like talk of like, oh, Martin Freeman doesn't want to make them anymore, and him and Benedict are feuding and all this kind of nonsense, and it's just kind of like, no, I think it's just the fact of that they're kind of like household names now, both of them. Yeah. And it's like they're going to be demanding a bigger fee, which the BBC can't afford to pay.
Yeah.
Or the production company can't afford to pay them. And it's like they can't just go, oh, just don't you just want to make it just for the fun of it? Nah. Give us that £1 million. It's just like...
But to get back to Enola Holmes, I think you mentioned it already. Henry Cavill played Sherlock Holmes.
Henry Cavill, and he was good, but he looked a little bit awkward as Sherlock Holmes because he's buff. He's buffed up. Yeah. He looks like Superman. in like Victorian dress,
Is he British?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's another one who's been floated around as James Bond.
I think it's funny because it very much seemed like an American company made this film because they chose all like British. If you watch anything else British, you see all kind of the same British people and everything, but this one was very much like, let's cast people that Americans will know. Let's cast British people. Like, we're not going to have Americans doing British accents. Let's cast actual British people, but they have to kind of be in stuff that Americans will definitely know.
Well, the casting of Millie Bobby Brown was a bit of a stroke of genius on Netflix's part because she's known for Stranger Things, and I think she's the breakout star of Stranger Things.
Yeah, I think
because
so,
she's the kid who can, not to spoil it, for anything,
With the Eggos and all that. Like the Eggo.
The Eggos, yeah. Well, actually, come to think of it, I think her and David Harbour, who play Jim Walker in Stranger Things, who plays Jim Walker, they're both the breakout stars. All the women go crazy for him.
I mean...
They're all like, oh, David Harbour.
We already knew
Lily
him.
Allen's so lucky for marrying him. Who knew that Lily Allen had gotten married to David Harbour? That was so random and weird. And then they went to In-N-Out Burger for, like, the reception.
Anyway, Holmes.
Getting back to Enola Holmes.
Helena Bonham Carter plays her mom.
Americans know her as Bellatrix.
Yeah. There was, who else? There was somebody else, too, that I was just like, oh, yeah, this is definitely cast by Americans.
Vern Gorman was in it. Not many Americans know who he is.
No, I don't think so.
But he has played pretty much every bad guy there is going. He's kind of
He's just got a face for bad guys.
He's going the Mark Strong route. You know, he's kind of like, if there's a bad guy that needs playing, he's going to do it.
If you've seen Doctor Who, I don't know that he was actually in Doctor Who.
No, he was in Torchwood.
He was in Torchwood, yeah. But if you're a Doctor Who / Torchwood fan, you'll know who he is.
He was the bad guy in Forever. He was the guy who was also, and that was only a
Nobody
series.
saw Forever.
Nobody saw Forever. And he was I think he was in Elementary too. Which is the other Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, I forgot
franchise
about
with
that one.
Johnny Lee Miller.
Yeah,
Johnny Lee
that
Miller.
One was
everybody.
A little bit. I mean, let
that
us know.
one was a bit weird.
Well, let us know if you guys watched that version of Sherlock. I think what was that called?
Elementary.
That's it, yeah.
Elementary. Yeah.
We watched like the first series, maybe part of the second one. I'm not sure. And we tried to get into it, but just the fact that it was set in New York and Lucy Liu was Watson and
Joan Watson.
Yeah, it was just all a bit. Ugh.
And Johnny Lee Miller, he wasn't so bad. I mean, he now holds the record for having played Sherlock Holmes the longest on TV.
Really?
And it's purely by episode number, because I think it was like 7 seasons of Elementary. It's finished now. It's kind of like police procedural show, Chicago PD, Law and Order, CSI type thing,
Yeah. It doesn't feel very Sherlock Holmes.
It doesn't feel very Sherlock Holmes, no. It's kind of like they just like shoehorn the character in. And it's just like, oh, Sherlock Holmes lives in New York now because his dad wanted him out of London because he did something.
Some of that was kind of interesting. Mycroft, he still got Mycroft as the brother.
Yeah, Mycroft is his brother.
I mean, if you watched it, let us know what you thought of it.
Yeah.
Really quickly before we run out of time here, we need to talk about the movie. We've talked about the cast. We've talked about the basic
premise.
Yeah.
It's based on the first book, The Mystery of the Missing Lord.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember what it was called. The Missing Marquess.
Yeah. It's set in Victorian
England, London.
London mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And her mother goes missing. Their mother goes missing.
Yeah.
And she's left kind of clues for Enola to find her. I mean, we don't really want to spoil the plot, too much, but it's pretty good because she wants to prove herself and go off and do that.
Yeah, her brothers come in to help her. Oh, our mother's gone. We're gonna have to take over. What's going on? The garden's overgrown. There's no servants. We've been sending her money.
Mycroft and Sherlock. It's the premise is Mycroft works for the British government.
Yeah.
Sherlock's this famous detective. Mycroft's been sending money back home, and he thinks like, oh, the servants, and they've got this wonderful house in the country.
Yeah.
The family pile, the family home.
Yeah.
And when they get there, Enola's like, oh, what? What are you talking about? And it's clearly she's just been taking the money and just spending it as how she saw fit.
Yeah.
Not employing any servants, not keeping a grand house, not keeping butlers and valets and maids and all this kind of stuff.
She doesn't, Enola doesn't have a governess, so the mother...
There was one maid, I think, and that was it.
Yeah. The mother is teaching her herself, and they're living sort of like, they're living their bohemian life,
Living their bohemian life
she's teaching
in
her
the English countryside.
She's teaching her how to sword fight, like, they're doing science experiments, like, it's very modern.
It's
and
very
like,
how Sherlock might have grown up.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But Sherlock and Mycroft particularly are appalled that, she's been living this way. And Mycroft wants to send her to a boarding school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's where we are. Mother's missing.
A finishing school for ladies.
Wants to send her to the finishing school. The
Fiona Shaw's in it.
The kind where you have to, walk around with books on the top of your head.
Yeah. Fiona Shaw plays the governess of that place, and she's known for like killing Eve and everything else. She was also in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Aunt Petunia.
Oh yes! Oh God, yeah. So she runs away and basically finds adventure. A thing I thought was interesting, and I don't know why they decided to include it. I don't know why the choice for her to talk to us. She talked to the camera.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. She kind of narrated what was going on.
I think
not narrated.
I think that was kind of like, because this is like a teen thing.
I guess so, yeah.
It's like most of these it's kind of like set like a teen type thing. You know, like all these teen movies that go, and do you know what she told me? Looking at the camera, you know, like these.
It was very Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes, that kind of thing, yeah. But no, like Clueless kind of did it, you know, like narration and stuff, but she's actually talking to the camera.
I guess so. Yeah. I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. There were very, like, the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock-y
moments,
feelings. Yeah, with the, like, I kept thinking of it as, like, Scrabble letters. I guess that's what it was it?
Yeah, they were like Scrabble letters,
they were
and
all
ciphers.
Like, yeah, but they looked like all different, you know, capital letters and lowercase letters and everything, like, kind of like it reminded me of when people cut out a ransom note out of a magazine.
Nobody takes the time to do that anymore, do they? It's all on email now, or a DM or something, you know, like, oh, you know, I know what you did, you know, and like cut it off. Nobody takes the time out, you know. The art of the ransom note is finished.
Yes. And then the music was very, very Sherlock.
Daniel Pemberton, I think, wrote the score for it. But I thought Daniel Pemberton did Sherlock, but it was David Arnold, who was a Bond composer for many years.
Okay.
The Pierce Brosnan tenure.
But yeah, I would recommend it. If you're a Sherlock Holmes fan at all, then I would definitely say it's worth watching. Especially if you have Netflix, of course. Definitely. I mean, you have nothing to lose there.
You have nothing to lose, so just go watch it now. Yeah.
It's fun. It's great for kids. Like, there's nothing bad in it or anything.
No, there's nothing bad.
Yeah.
No gory bits.
Good way to get your kids involved in Sherlock Holmes.
Enola Holmes.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add? I think we've pretty much
we covered everything.
Yeah,
I think we've done it.
I know this ended up being a bit more about Sherlock in general than it was about Enola, but yeah.
Sherlock!
But yeah, we didn't obviously want to spoil the movie for you if you haven't seen it, being that it just came out, so. Yeah, it was fun, exciting, great. We definitely recommend it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have seen Enola Holmes, let us know what you thought of it. Tell us what you thought, and if you thought it was good, let us know. If you thought it was bad, crap, let us know. Let us know. Yeah. Let us know what your overall opinion is whenever people do things like that. Like, add a new character that was never... You know, because people get really pissed off about that kind of thing sometimes. Oh. I mean, I'm sure, you know, Dominic is a big Star Trek fan. I'm sure you've gotten pissed off about things, Star Trek-y type things that have been added I mean, it's just, kind of like just the canon and stuff like that. You know, if they mess with the canon, they're just messing with established canon and stuff, you know. It's kind of like, you're doing the show a disservice a little bit if you're just... Oh, well, I don't care about that. I'm just going to make up what I think is going to... You know, if someone wrote... It's like James Bond, I suppose. They've done that in the movies. They've kind of just taken the character and put him in these crazy situations. And it's got nothing to do with Ian Fleming now. I mean, Ian Fleming would hate this James Bond, I'm sure. And he'd hate... Well, he didn't really care for Sean Connery when he was cast. So there you go, you know. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit more, if we're going to equate it to James Bond, the Charlie Higson novels. Yeah, yes. Because that was creating a whole backstory for James Bond that didn't exist. He tried to remain faithful to the Fleming. They were fabulous, too. Yeah. I thought they were great. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, you just have to read these things or watch these things and judge for yourself, you know, like, take a step back, like, take a chill pill. Yes, people who just get worked up about it are the people on the internet. You know? Yeah. But anyway, let us know your opinion on the whole topic. Let us know. Yeah. And we will talk to you Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll be back Thursday. Yeah, we're going away for a Wednesday. We're going away. Goodbye. I wish that were true. Goodbye.